Support the Amigos podcast and keep the Amiga goodness flowing for just $1 a month. Visit our page at patreon.com/AmigosPodcast.
Amiga, the first personal computer that gives you a creative edge.
Amigos, the podcast about everything Amiga. Amigos is a proud member of the Throwback Network, your home for quality retro podcasts. And now, here are your hosts, Aaron Dowdy and John Bodovkar Schaller.
Hi everybody, welcome to Amigos. I'm John.
And I'm Aaron.
And today we're going to hit you with a double feature of Data East classics.
This is a double wide show.
It is.
It's double packed.
You like that song, Made her the queen of my double wide trailer with the polyester curtains and the red roof deck?
No,
You don't like that song?
I don't like it.
That is probably top 5.
Although with that
all
song,
time.
with your performance of that song, we have become the #1 Amiga-related podcast in West Virginia. Right there, brother. Bam. Just because of that.
Well, I'm glad.
We got double wides to beat the band, don't we?
We do. You drive through the streets of Hurricane, West Virginia, there is no shortage of double wides.
We've only got one street boat.
Yeah, well, I was trying to make us a little bit bigger. So, Aaron, before we get into Sly Spy and Bad Dudes, we got some mail to open.
All right. I love it.
So, this is a package.
It is.
Well, I'm going to save that for last. This.
So you know what's in that one?
Well, I don't know what's. I think I have some
It looks
idea.
like that one's been
This one,
pilfered.
I opened it so I wouldn't have to futz with the scissors on the podcast. Sometimes I cut myself. This is from a guy in in Delaware.
Oh, okay.
He actually lives in Wilmington, which is the same city that my sister and brother-in-law live in. His name's Darwin.
You're kidding me.
I'm not kidding.
His name's Darwin?
His name's Darwin.
I've heard of him.
Okay, cool. And
I thought maybe it was George Thorogood.
And the Destroyers.
The Delaware Destroyers. That's the only reason I got that. I was trying to think of somebody famous from Delaware that I could just pop out. I got nothing.
Well, was he from Delaware?
I don't know. I just know about the Delaware Destroyers. Just keep going. Ignore that. Edit that later.
Okay, so this is a magazine.
Oh, boy.
This is multiple things. So it looks like we've got a poster here. And it is a poster. Oh,
that's tremendous.
still ready. So you know where that's going.
That's going up on the
Amigo
wall.
Studios East.
Oh, awesome. Let me
Yeah.
have a look at this thing.
That is
It's got all
sweet.
screenshots. Where did it... That is tremendous. Look at that, everyone.
Yeah, so it's for those listening at home, it is a Commodore logo made up of many, many, many screenshots. It's
Still
very
ready.
cool.
I love it. I love that.
And this is a magazine called Commodore and Amiga Plus. This is issue number 8, K&8 Plus. And this is a magazine that Darwin asked me if we would like to review and report back on what we thought of it.
Have you ever... I've never even heard of this magazine. Have
Yeah,
you?
I had not heard of it before he mentioned it.
And they're up to issue 8?
They're up to issue 8. This is a Polish magazine, but Darwin is actually on the team that translates it into English.
So there's an English version?
Yeah, and that's what this is.
Do you know if they've all been in English or is this the first one?
I don't know. So Darwin, please let us know. We would love to have more information, but this looks good.
Man.
I mean, this looks like Retro Gamer.
Let me have a look at this thing. That is a...
Very heavy paper.
Yeah, that's the real deal. I mean, that's a proper magazine. That
yeah.
looks like... It's got the same binding as my D&D modules. I mean, it's got a real good bonding on it. Man, you can't get enough Amiga mags.
Yeah.
I love it.
So, Darwin, we will read this thoroughly. And
You said this is Polish.
yeah, Polish.
Hey, we know that Poland's got a ton of Amiga fans over there.
They've got the best Amiga fans.
Look at that, Bruce Lee. Love it.
yeah.
Thank you very much, and thanks, and also for the poster.
Yeah, that poster will go up on the wall in Amigo Studios East, and we'll send you a picture of that, too.
That's right. There you go. Thank you very much.
Yeah.
What a treat.
Yeah,
Isn't that nice?
absolutely. All right, now, this next package is from our buddy in Hawaii.
I know what this is.
Aloha
I know what this is. Yeah.
to Jonas Rulo.
Gosh, the luckiest man on the planet.
We got a lot of stuff in here. So,
Oh, really?
yeah. In package, small package. Ooh.
Uh-oh.
It looked dicey there for a second. I've gotten those
Turn off the
packages
cameras,
before.
folks.
This is an Amiga
It is
500.
Oh, yeah.
A 3D printed Amiga 500.
Well, look at that. Isn't that something? You can add this to your little computer collection.
let me read you this note. It says, "Hey guys, you can backyard wrestle over this one." Oh yeah, so this is what we were talking about.
Look at
He
that,
didn't have
y'all.
time to retrobyte the 500 case.
I was gonna say this looks like my this looks like my 1200. It's a good kind of brownish. That is. But look how the that's incredibly. It even says Amiga right
yeah,
here.
and he says that it is bamboo PLA. So if you're listening at home, this is a 3D printed Amiga case, and the white is, he says the white is regular PLA. So
We'll have to put up a picture of that.
yeah, that is very cool.
That is awesome.
Two
Jonas.
mice
Good
too.
God.
So,
And it's got the let's see.
yeah, it's got two
Oh, it
mice
got
in
both the mouse. It's got two different tank mice with it. You can't really see those. They're a little tiny. Great.
Yeah,
That
so-
was- I'm not even going to beat you for that one. I'm going to let you because you've got the other. You've got
It'll,
the
I'll,
1000 over there.
yeah, they'll sit side by side on the top of my computer.
You've
and
got.
I'll
See,
at
look,
them
you are
often.
collecting Amigas. It
I
took
am.
all these years.
I am. All right, so we'll put that
That's
away for
great.
now. I want to make sure and not lose these mice.
You don't have any cats, do you?
The next thing in here, we have, oh, now this is something right up your alley.
It's a little alien.
Creepy alien keychain.
Oh boy. Yeah, I think I'll be taking that.
Yeah.
Look at that. Is this stuff you made? All of this stuff,
Yeah.
right? Gosh,
Okay,
it would
now-
be fun to have this.
Oh,
Man, did you see how cool?
He gave us both of them.
Oh, okay, great.
Creepy alien keychain.
This
So
might
thank
go
you.
to the. This might go to the girlfriend right here.
And I just want to go ahead and plug Jonas's business here. His business is called Kona Impact, and they do websites, graphic design, online marketing, and large format printing. So if you are in need of any of those things, he is helping Hawaii's business grow. And if you want to get in touch with Jonas, please do.
Yeah, I can tell you his
and
stuff is. Look
top
at the. Look at the.
notch.
Did you look how the fine detail now? I mean, it looks like almost looks like a lucha mask.
Right,
You know.
right.
That is. It's incredible
It
what you
is.
can make. Gosh. And I
And-
can't cut wood, and this guy's.
He says
Going
that
to work.
he does 3D printing podcasts. He told me. And so,
Really?
yeah, he's really into that scene.
I didn't know there were such things.
And finally, we have what is what he told me he was sending. This is the mother load, folks. This is really what you've all been waiting for. We have in this package a bunch of new
Wow.
Amigos magnets.
Wow.
And
neat.
so this was the #1 giveaway on our episode 100, if you remember. And so we will be doing another event pretty soon, and these will be given away. So, Jonas, we can't thank you enough for your generosity.
Yes, thank you, Jonas. That's above and beyond, sir.
Yeah, yeah.
Because I've had people see mine and ask me, "Where'd you get that?" And I was like, "Well, Hawaii."
Yeah. So we will. Oh, and look at this. He even put an Amiga boing ball on that package. Look at
Love
that.
it.
Yeah.
Love it. Attention
So,
to detail.
yeah. I lovingly ripped that open. So
Nice work. We
sorry
didn't rip
about
the
that.
boing ball. At least
Yeah.
you got that down.
Yeah.
Beauty. Thanks. Hey, thanks everyone.
Yeah, Darwin and Jonas,
I
thank
can't
you very
wait to look
much.
at the magazine, and it'll be fun to give away those magnets because people did seem to want them.
Yeah,
You know, they're cool.
yeah, yeah. We got feedback, Aaron.
Okay. Oh boy.
So
Are they gonna- Go ahead.
first thing comes from, we're going a couple episodes back to our Neuromancer episode. And L.A. Sooner commented, he said, you mentioned Timothy Leary's involvement with this game. Did you know that he was working on another game at the same time?
I read a little bit about that.
So he says, L.A. Sooner writes, I actually worked at Interplay in the mid to late 90s and worked on a multimedia CD that was never finished called Timothy Leary in the Garden of Chaos. It was an edutainment game, and it was really one of those interactive multimedia experiences that were so popular when the CDs first came out. But the premise was that you traveled through Timothy Leary's life, and you got to see video of him and some of his famous friends talk about him and stuff like that. And so he says, unfortunately, it says Brian Fargo was friends with him, which explains the Interplay Leary connection. I guess he was a big shot at Interplay. He says it was weird and interesting, but ultimately they didn't think it would have an audience, and they canceled it. He was filmed on green screen, so the videos were composited into 3D environments that reflected whatever it was he was talking about. It was also the last interview he gave before passing away. And he says, unfortunately, I believe all the footage was lost in an Interplay bankruptcy.
Oh man.
So,
but and this fellow worked for them, eh?
yeah,
That's
yeah.
crazy.
So that's an awesome story.
You know, I know I'd read that he had some sticks in the fire, and they were going to be pretty elaborate, especially given the technology of the day. Of course, you know, CDs are really, you know, getting to be a bigger deal at that point. There's a lot of videos, but I mean, I saw some of the crazy footage, just like they had still photos of it, and there was some really weird stuff. And the fact, honestly, I didn't know anything about Dr. Leary's involvement with Neuromancer until I'd researched that show, and now it's just, like I said, I always wondered why he was sort of mentioned in the game. You know, it's who knew?
Yeah,
How crazy is that?
It is. The connections
hey,
are really.
thanks for writing in on that. That is something right there.
Thank you, LA Sooner. And that's it for the mailbag for this, or the feedback for this week. So why don't we go on into the Amiga news?
All right,
of the week.
I will start off the festivities. Let me get the Amigatron 5000 here to our news area. One thing I didn't put up in the news was that I had a chance to look, and I don't think I mentioned this on the last show, but I had a chance to look at, and actually play the Raspberry Pi Ultimate Amiga collection. I know I mentioned it last time. It was sort of was on the bad side of the WHD Amiga users group on Facebook. I went ahead and pulled it down and had a look at it and tried out some stuff. And I was pretty impressed. You know, I mean, it is a massive collection of Amiga stuff. It took forever to download, and there's already been an update for it, and I've installed that and looked at it. It does a pretty good job. Again, as we have once again learned when we were over here messing around, emulating the Amiga, even in 2017, is not the easiest thing to do. And this thing is not perfect by any stretch of the imagination. That said, it does a pretty good job. They've been very clever the way they put it together. It loads pretty quick and it works pretty well. So I'm not going to sit here and say I give it my ringing endorsement, but I mean, if you're into the Pi, if you've got the ability to get hold of, say, a 128 meg or gig, 128 meg, all right, 128 gig card to pull this, and then the ability to download this, 65 gig behemoth, then which, hey, I did it. Then give it a shot. If you want to go that way with your emulation, partnered up with a keyboard and everything, you've got yourself a pretty good replacement for an Amiga. Again, this is nothing I want to put in my into my crazy Commodore 64 retro Raspberry Pi setup, but until they make it so you can access the menus and stuff with something aside from the F11 or F12, I'm bummed because I don't have that. So, and that stuff's still there because no matter how thin you slice it, you're still using one of the only couple emulators on the Pi for the Amiga, and that's just hardwired in. So that's my biggest problem with that stuff. I wish they would, wish something would come along from that. But c'est la vie. So let's go down the list here. Our good buddy, our good and dear friend, Chris Folds, has turned me on to and I read about this a little bit after he sent there's an expansion card that's coming out soon for the CD32, and that is something. It's going to add some much needed expansion to the CD32. It won't help me since my CD32 is jacked up.
Yeah, the expansion part is part of the
That's the part. I mean, I guess I could go there and patch it. It's my lot in life to have this damaged Amiga stuff, but this would be nice. If you have a CD32, I've always heard that those things. I mean, I don't know it now, but I mean, back in the day, they were pretty accessible in the UK at a decent cost. Now, if you're in America, you're boned because you're not going to get one cheap.
It's funny. I was just searching through Facebook for sale posts today, and over in England, they're selling. You can get 500s all day long for less than £100.
Yeah.
I mean,
well, that's went up. I mean, I've heard too many people talk about. I picked one up for £20.
Oh, sure, and I mean, this is Facebook where people are trying.
Yeah,
to, so.
yeah. It's a whole different world.
Yeah.
Like I said, when I saw that Amiga for sale here, I couldn't believe it. And by the way, just along those lines, I've told the story. Yes, I went and got the Amiga, and it's great. I got greedy, and I searched for Amiga again last week and found another one that came up. It was a guy who had an Amiga 2000 for sale. and he wanted much more. I can't remember what he wanted, but he ended up selling it on eBay. And so he told me by the time I got hold of him, he'd already sold it.
Right.
But still, hey, that's 2.
Yeah.
And what are the odds? Around here, they're pretty low. So we also had a. Let me see if there's anything we need. This isn't. I don't have this put up yet, but I've noticed that the company's been updating some of their EXE files. Of course, the company is the guys that make the standalone EXE emulator files for the PC, and you just click on the file and run it. We've covered them many times, and they have released a slew of new ones. And the one that really caught my eye was they released son of a gun. I just had it in my head and I lost it. The crazy platform game with the stupid name that we love, Rodland.
Mm-hmm.
They just did they did Rodland. Now I know you love Rodland, I love Rodland. Now you can play it with the company's file, so you can check them out. They've updated a lot of their stuff. I mean, really too many to mention. They're going through and updating a lot of them. Let's see if there's anything else on here. There was an article up this week. Actually, Shane Monroe found this one. I'll give him credit. About a guy who took a C64, and I'm going to mention this because it's so wacky, and he used this as a VR rig. I saw this shared on a couple of different sites. It's wacky, but I watched the little video of what you'd see in the VR. It's kind of cool. Actually, of course, the article is sort of the headline's sort of jerky to me.
Well, it's Gizmodo, so
like they're too cool for school.
Mm-hmm.
But you know how that people are. See if we got anything else here. I think.
How about this
yes,
Indie Retro News article?
that's brand new. I haven't seen that one.
So this is.
Oh yeah, did I not talk about that already?
No.
Yeah, they've released who are they? Right? There's an NES emulator that's been released for the Amiga, Wacky. Right now, you have to have a beefy Amiga to run it. I think they said the minimum would be an 040, right? And they suggest an 060, right? That said, beefy Amigas are becoming more commonplace with the Vampire stuff and these other cards that have been coming out. So if you want to emulate the NES on your Amiga, you can to a certain degree. I hear I'm sure it's not perfect.
It's a work in progress.
But how wacky.
It is.
Boy, if this had came out back in the glory days, people had a heart attack.
Yeah.
Can you imagine that? Of course, Nintendo would have stomped down with the mighty foot.
Now, is the 060, was that only available in the 4000?
I don't know. I'm sure there was expansions to get you up to it with, say, the 1200. But those things were so cost prohibitive. Any of the 04, they were a blip on my radar because I was like, I'm never getting that. Now you're talking, they're still, that stuff's still expensive. But if you've got one and you want to emulate the NES, it seems like though if you want to, I guess it's a novelty. I mean, if you've got I guess if you drop the money to jack up your Amiga,
you're going to want to have something to do with it.
Yeah, emulating the NES would at least be something amusing,
right?
That you could do. One more item here. This was sent over, and it's a modern software for creating chip tunes. I think this was sent over by Adam Bradley sent it over, our good pal Adam, and it's exactly what it is. It's a software to make chip tunes. It looked interesting. I tried my best. I remember back in the day messing around with the Octamed and stuff, trying to figure out how to make music on it. And the problem is I have no talent and no patience. These are the bad things when it comes to stuff like that. And so I never could make anything that was worth a crap.
They have programs that will automatically take MIDI files, and chiptunize them and things like that.
How bizarre.
I know Earl Green, our buddy that does the Odyssey podcast, he has sort of a band, he calls it. They're called like Cassioca or something like that. And anyway, he releases these chiptunized versions of all these pop songs and stuff from the 70s. And it's a cool thing. I like chiptune music. One of my favorite bands is YMCK. They're a Japanese chiptune band. And so,
Does that stand for something, or are they just being amusing?
I don't know. I think it's probably just being amusing. But.
Speaking of Earl, I like I said, I like his Odyssey stuff, but he's the fellow that did those Doctor Who books, right?
Mm-hmm.
And if you're into Doctor Who, he's done a couple, tomes on Doctor Who that are quite. I use them when I go back and watch the old stuff in particular. I have him standing by. And Earl seems like a pretty good cat. I've never talked to him personally, but I like his show. So
yeah. So this actually, I'll go ahead and throw this up here since we're talking about it. This is called Kasatachi. It actually is funny because it's all set up like
an Amiga,
right?
Yep.
And so this is and all this stuff is free, But he basically releases these albums of chiptune covers of, this one is 70s soft rock hits.
It's very clever, though. It's a good idea.
Yeah.
You've got ways to do it.
Yeah.
So what do you get on site updates this week, bud? We've had a few.
Yeah. Well, let me check it out here. So the first update, this just came out today, is Dreamcatcher has written an article about the Trolls game on the Amiga. Now this is a game.
And Oscar, yeah, it's double trouble.
Is it Oscar
well,
also?
You'd have to read it. It's
okay.
Crazy.
But this is a game that I haven't played yet, but I've read about several times, and I think it should be something that we try and review in the future. Just because it is, it looks okay. I haven't played it. Yeah.
I've not played it either, and it's funny. Teresa, my girlfriend, collected troll dolls back in the day. She had tons of them. I always hated those little freaks. But the game, I would say, just from the still shots, it looked pretty good.
Yeah.
I've not played it either, so we should probably put it on the list.
But it reviewed pretty well, which is a good sign. So Dreamcatcher has been busy doing that. Chris Folds has released an Amigos plays of that popular caveman space taxi delivery.
This is the one we played on the Amigathon.
Right.
That was I dug it. Boy, very creative. It was at the same time creative and not. Mm-hmm. They totally torqued the idea of a caveman of the taxi service, but the other stuff they were pretty creative in the way they presented it.
Right.
So I'll give them that.
Right.
For sure.
Now this is an article that I actually somehow didn't see until just now. So I don't know what this is about. The Turbo Touch 360.
Oh, I read this.
Okay.
It's funny. I know I've seen one of these in the real world. It's a stick that you doesn't have a gamepad on it. You sort of put your thumb. You sort of move your thumb around on like a touchpad-y type thing. It didn't catch on, but. And there's also
there's no it's not because there was a NES thing called the NES Max that was sort of like that, except you still had like a little disc that you would move around, but this is nothing.
Yeah, this is nothing.
This is just like a trackpad.
I don't if I use one I don't remember it, but I don't know exactly what it would feel like, but there's nothing there.
Right.
And it's just one of those wacky peripherals that didn't catch on, and this article goes into the plight of this unfortunate piece of hardware.
It's funny to think about all of those companies that had third-party joysticks for the consoles, and they were almost always crap.
Yeah, including the Amiga team had those old crazy ones. I've still got that wacky one that I got with that batch of stuff that. I haven't used yet, but it's on my list. It's that crazy steering wheel and a weird joy. I got a bunch of weird peripherals with that, so
yeah, that'll
be fun to fool around with.
Let's see. Chris Folds put up a top Amiga arcade conversions list.
Yeah, I looked this over. It's pretty good. I didn't agree with all of it, but I thought
he hit most of the big ones.
Yes.
Yeah. And this is a little off topic for the Amiga site, but not really, because it was all sort of coherent with it. The CD era was kind of coinciding with the height of the Amiga. But he wrote about how this magazine, I think this is a British magazine, totally poo-pooed the PlayStation the first time they saw it. They call it sad. You know, it almost sounds like something Donald Trump would say. You know, it's they said, you know, they didn't have anything good to say about it at all, and just goes to show, you know, nobody believed that Sony could put out a game system that could compete against, you know, Sega and Nintendo.
Well, if you read that article, I mean, if you think about the era, you can sort of see why they come to that conclusion. That they're a victim of their own reality at the time. It's hard to believe that an outfit even like Sony could just pop in, especially with, and also at the time the CD was a new technology that was untested really, and they showed like some of the I think they showed some of the 3DO stuff and some other stuff, and it looks like they've got the winning formula. I mean, you would have been, I mean, when 3DO came out,
everybody thought that was.
I thought this is going to be the, and they've got the way they did the licensing and stuff. I was like, man, this is going to be a big hit. But then you see that price tag, you know, Sony, the price tag plus the good system, but I mean the price tag was a big deal. I mean it sunk the Saturn, it sunk everything, you know. So that article, it was very amusing. When he dug up.
Yeah, I really enjoyed reading it. And anything that's got those old scans of magazines, I really like. Amigos Labs has been busy, especially with this guy, Data Flyer XDS. Tell us about that.
XDS is effectively it's an external hard drive enclosure for the Amiga 6 and 1200. It was from our good buddies Data Flyer. The XDS had a crazy cable that hooked onto your internal IDE and provided a spot internally for you to hook up the drive internally. Then you run the cable out of it, and the cable brought with it the power and everything, and you ran it into their enclosure, and you could hook another 2.5-inch drive in it, or a 3.5-inch drive, which at the time was a big deal because they were cheaper, you know. And the one I got again on that crazy deal, it worked. The 3.5-inch drive worked. It was booted right up. You could also boot off of it. It was actually today there's not much use for them because of we're all using compact flash. But at the time, this would have been quite an awesome little gimmick, and it was pretty cheap too when it came out. So it's definitely a novelty. I'll probably end up selling mine. I'm sure somebody can use it, but it's nutty, and they're solid. I mean, Data Flyer, one thing you got to say is their stuff was solid.
The last thing I want to bring up is I think that we actually this might have got lost in the shuffle here at the end of August. This was released, Kickstart issue 10, which has the intriguing cover story, the Ultimate Portable Amiga.
Yeah, I read this thing. Of course, I always read them cover to cover, but I was particularly interested in this article because I've seen a lot of these little doodads coming out that are little PCs, you know, handheld. You know, some are Android, but some are Windows, and it's intriguing to think that you could. I mean, the price point's a little bit above what I would pay, but I like the idea of a portable Windows-based system that you could take around and use. I mean, I know everybody's in love with Android to a certain degree, but I mean, a lot of you know, I would rather have a Windows system portably. Yeah. You know, but and he has a lot of stuff in that issue. It's great. They're always great, and I think this is probably actually. I mean, I like them all. I think this is the best one he's put out. It's really good. So yeah, I urge you to, and free, totally free. Just go download it. It's a great read. Put it on your phone. You know.
Yeah, they're in PDF, so you just, you know, download it and put it wherever you want it. So.
Yeah, and we had what else do we have this week? Does that cover everything?
I think that's everything.
No, there's some new Amigos plays. Aside from there was we didn't mention mine, did we?
Oh yeah, I purposely left those off because I thought I'll tell Aaron to talk about it, and then I just forgot to mention it.
Yeah, I did. So, I actually got off my fat can this week and did something. And I put up, I had a playthrough of Turbo Outrun to complete the Outrun trilogy of pain. And also I did Tennis Cup 2.
Ooh,
and
that looked good, actually.
Well, I mean, Tennis Cup 2 was interesting that it had, it offered split screen. Which, again, that's not my favorite tennis game on the Amiga, but that's nice. I don't like the angle of it though, but
it's a little bit. It seems like you need a little bit more elevation.
Yeah, and I've got a couple more cooking, and if anyone's out there would like to see anything, drop me a line, and I'm more than willing to take requests.
Yeah.
When Amigos plays, because
Awesome.
I'm feeling the flow. I'm ready to do some Amiga playing.
Well, are you ready to do some game reviewing?
Oh yeah, man.
All right.
Except they're not reviews, but
I'm going to keep calling them reviews
no
just because
way.
you hate it.
These are our personal opinions on these games. I'm not gonna review. I'm not a reviewer. Are you kidding me?
So why don't we start things off with Sly Spy?
Yeah. So today's games are both Data East games, which Data East had a ton of great games, but these are a couple of my favorite arcade games. I would say I pitched this episode because I love these in the arcade. Sly Spy was released for the Amiga in '89. Again, this is licensed from Data East. They had a ton of games on the Amiga. They had Real Ghostbusters. They had our other game today, which is Dragon Ninja / Bad Dudes, Joe and Mac, and a bunch of ABC Sports stuff. They had a bunch of stuff. This came on 2 discs. Ocean published it, and this is a one-player game. And this was done by an outfit called Developer Software Creations. They did a bunch of stuff on here that you may have heard of, Bo. Tell me if you've heard of any of these. They did Bubble Bobble. They did Bonnet Commando, Gauntlet 3, Ghouls and Ghosts, Jet Set Willie. These are all on the Amiga. They did a lot of good stuff. So this came out on several different platforms. Of course, it was based on the arcade. Came out in the Atari ST, the C64, the Spectrum. So it had I wouldn't say this was a huge arcade hit. Had you heard of this in the arcade? Or
Never.
Had you heard this at all?
I had never heard of this game before you mentioned it.
Really?
And I'd heard of Bad Dudes. I played Bad Dudes on multiple platforms, but never heard of Sly Spy.
I'm surprised. I really am.
Yeah.
So, what is Sly Spy? So, basically, and this game has a rep. And the rep is, this is the best James Bond game that ever released that wasn't a James Bond game. Because in this game, you play Sly Spy. He is a spy. Mm-hmm. He's a Bond. He is James Bond.
Secret agent.
The only difference is he's American, and he's working for, I guess, the CIA or the Secret Service or whatever. So in this game, this is a game that has multiple levels that offer different types of play. You play Sly, and you're trying to stop an evil plan from coming to fruition. The outfit you're after is the Council of World Domination. Did you know that? It's only mentioned a couple times. But
no.
Yes, the Council for World Domination.
The CWD.
Yeah, that's right. That's exactly what they're called. So they send Sly to go fight these guys. So this game is separated in different levels. I will say this game has every level that the arcade has, that's a big deal because the arcade, that's what makes the arcade game fun. So in the first level of this, it's a side. We should mention it's a side-scrolling shooter for the most part. I mean, I think that's for all the part. There's a little bit of going up and down, but not that much. So you're Sly. In the first part of this,
is your name actually Sly?
I think his name is actually. Let me look and see if I've got it on my notes here. What his actual name is. I think his name is actually Sly Spy. When you name that,
your career path is kind of chosen for you, I guess.
That's right. That's why you don't name your kid like Drunken Stripper.
Right.
You're not setting a good precedent for the child. So, in the first level of this, they jump you out of an airplane over Washington. There's been a bomb threat, and there are tons of the World Domination Council. There's a crap load of terrorists that are going to, shoot stuff. So you follow an airplane. In the first level, you're actually shooting other terrorists. I'm assuming that 30 terrorist planes have flown in, and they're just littering the sky with bad guys. And so on your way down, you're shooting these guys, and your gun looks just like a Walther PPK. The guy's wearing a tuxedo. It's the exact same crap.
Because, that's what you wear when you jump out of a plane.
That's right. So you, as you're falling, you shoot these guys. Eventually, your chute pops open, and there's a big American flag. And this is a play on, I believe it was View to a Kill, where Bond popped his parachute skiing off a cliff and had the British
Union
flag,
Jack on
which was awesome. That was Roger Moore. And so, I mean, everything in this game is ripped off / an homage to the James Bond movies. So you land in the first scene. The second scene, you're in front of the Lincoln Monument, which is pretty coolly rendered. And in this scene, you're just running back and forth, mostly to the right, and terrorists are just running up to you and trying to shoot you, or lobbing little bullet bombs at you, and you just shoot them. I mean, there's some big terrorists. On the case of this big fat terrorist, I'll try to hit you with a barrel. Right? Why not? Right? So you get past these guys, you move on to a level where you're climbing on a boat. Right?
No,
you get on the motorcycle. Sorry.
Yeah.
So if you've seen, I want to see. I'm trying to think which movie had Bond on a motorcycle. But this motorcycle has got a gun mounted on the front. And there, of course, terrorists have motorcycles. They're coming after you. And at the end of that level, you shoot a guy in a car, in this clown car, where two guys have rifles and the third guy has a bazooka, all crammed into this compact. And then you get off that, you go to a boat, and you're running. This sort of reminds me of Rolling Thunder. You ever played that game?
Oh yeah.
I bet you're a fan of that.
Yeah, I do like Rolling
Wasn't that
Thunder.
a big NES game?
Yeah.
Does this remind you of it
It
somewhat?
does.
Same guys, right? Didn't Dead East do that one as
Right.
well?
Yeah. The big difference with Rolling Thunder is that it moves as much vertically as it does
Right,
horizontally.
right.
But the gameplay is very similar.
And I believe at the end of this level is when you fight Jaws. Now, if you've seen, Jaws was in a couple Bond films, but the one I think of is Moonraker. He was in, and Jaws is the
Now, not the Jaws, the shark, like
that's
you're fighting right
no.
now.
No, so Jaws is the villain that has the big metal teeth.
Yeah.
He's a big, huge guy. He was played by Richard
Hervé Villechaize.
Richard Keel. Was that
Richard
his name?
Keel, yeah.
And who's the quintessential huge guy. And
He just recently passed away.
He did. He was in Happy Gilmore. He was in Wild Wild West. He was in Twilight Zone. He played one of the Kinnemans. A bunch of times he was in Twilight Zone. So he was been in everything. If you ever seen EGOT, he was EGOT. You ever seen EGOT?
I know what an EGOT is.
He's a caveman. He played a caveman. He's good at that. No speaking.
Do you know what an EGOT is?
An EGOT?
Yeah,
No.
EGOT.
It's a bird, isn't
EGOT?
it?
Nope.
What is it?
It's when you win the Emmy, the Grammy, the Oscar, and the Tony. It's the ultimate.
Has anybody ever done that?
Whoopi Goldberg.
Whoopi
think.
Goldberg won a Tony?
Yep.
Oh, she won a Grammy?
Yeah.
For what?
I have no idea, but she's she's an EGOT recipient.
Oh, good grief.
Yeah.
Well, it shows you where that's gone. Anyhow, wow, what a weird sidetrack. So you beat Jaws, right? Then
Not the shark. You beat
That's
him
right.
later.
And then you go, now some of these are going to start getting fuzzy because I haven't gotten this far that often. Then you go underwater. Now, if you've seen Bond movies, of course, you got to go underwater, and so Bond fights, and there's tons of terrorists underwater. And at the end of this level, you fight Jaws, the shark. Now, this is, you got to have a lot of guts just to put that in there. So Jaws, and by the way, this is now better than the Jaws game we reviewed.
It's funny because when you're fighting Jaws, it's very similar to when you fight Jaws in the NES game. The sprites are bigger. Your guy is the size of Jaws, which is odd because Jaws, I think, is much larger than a human. But
yeah, you would think so. But hey, maybe this is like Jaws' son or
Right.
something. So you kill this guy. And then at this point, I guess the scene's a little blurry. But I know you end up fighting Odd Job, who is the
he's
guy.
the guy with the hat.
If
right?
you ever saw Goldfinger, he's the guy that throws his hat. Yeah, and which I love. That's one of my favorites. So again, this is all ripped straight out of a Bond film.
I've never actually seen any of the James Bond movies.
Any of them?
I think I saw the one. I saw the one with Halle Berry in it.
Oh.
That's probably the best one, right?
Let's just move on.
Well, okay. I'm just wondering.
She almost got a spin-off movie from that.
Really?
Yeah. Then they realized everybody hated it and her. And you're like, well, maybe that's not a good idea.
Did what was special? I mean, how did Oddjob's hat kill people exactly?
It had a razor brim. If you ever seen the movie, which I'm assuming a lot of people here have seen a lot of Bond movies, but maybe they haven't. If you're going to sit down and watch one Bond movie, Goldfinger would not be the worst. It's a tremendous film, and that's the one Oddjob's in. Oddjob, at the beginning, at one point, Bond is screwing around with Art Goldfinger, and Oddjob's his manservant, and he says, "Oddjob, ting!" And he points at the statue, and Oddjob takes out a hat and whips it over and cuts the head off the statue. Now the head doesn't come back. It's not like Captain America's shield. I don't you thought it had.
I thought that was
in
how
the game. It does. It comes right back like a yo-yo.
Right.
But no, it doesn't do that.
Okay.
It just all it's got is a razor brim. So that's cool. You know, it's a shame they couldn't work Knick-Knack into the game. That was Hervé Villachez. I don't know if you knew that or just being smart. Yeah, Hervé Villachez played Knick-Knack in The Man with the Golden Gun.
Now, what was Knick-Knack's power?
He was the manservant for the guy with the golden gun.
So he didn't have any devious.
Oh, he was devious. He was super devious.
Okay.
But he was just like this guy's like
Just
flunky.
the right hand man, yeah.
Anyway, so and I speak of the golden gun. I guess we should get this out of the way. As you go through this game, you collect parts of a gun, and it's the golden gun, all right, which is taken from The Man with the Golden Gun. If you've ever seen that movie, which is a great.
Is the golden gun actually made of gold?
I think it shoots gold bullets. I can't remember if it's actually made of. It's long. It's a big gun. I mean, in the movie, it was multiple pieces, and it was made out of like an ink pen, and this is how you get it through customs. He'd have like a cigarette holder and an ink pen, and he assembled it.
Oh,
you know, and that was the golden gun. But it just shot one bullet. That's all he needed. Scaramanga, one bullet, one kill. Anyway, so they've taken that from there. So anyway, you make your way through this game. There's underground tunnels, and there's a guy there at the end. You're in a missile silo, and there's getting ready to shoot a missile, and then you fight the main bad guy who runs the Council for World Domination, and he's behind this shield, and there's like spikes coming down on you. You have to shoot the shield. Shield goes up, you go kill this guy. Wham bam, Bob's your uncle. And then the ending of this game stinks. It just says like, good job. You're like, oh.
Well, the ending is kind of anticlimactic.
Yeah,
too,
no
because
kidding.
you shoot through the shield, which basically you just shoot
It
the
wasn't even
shield
that
a lot of
hard,
times in
yeah.
a row, and then the bad guy doesn't even put up a fight. He just stands there. You shoot him, he dies.
There have been a lot of Bond villains that were just regular guys. That's why you employ all of these stooges.
Yeah.
And this game has what I call the Data East ending, where once you get to the ending, you've got to go back and fight a lot of the bad guys
Yeah,
that were in
a
it.
boss rush,
Except for the shark doesn't come back.
which is a shame that he couldn't make an appearance wearing like a diver suit or something.
One thing I do like about this game, well, there's a bunch of things, but one of the things aside from the bad guys is occasionally you'll be attacked by two Bengal tigers for some reason. Like I believe the first time they show up is on the docks. It's just like, where the hell did these come from?
Right off the boat.
It's like
from Bengal.
Jaws has a couple tigers, and the thing is, you just shoot them. They're not super tigers, but of all the weird things, and Bad Dudes has the same situation. So anyway, run and gun game. Again, this is your first experience with this. So what did you think of the plot or the story of the game, and what did you think of the game itself?
Well, I like everything about the presentation. I think that the graphics in this game are quite good, especially in the first level when you parachute into the city and you see all of Washington below you. Once you get into the levels, it's kind of your standard fare. The graphics are really nothing special. I wish that they could have done more with maybe parallax scrolling in the backgrounds or something like that. But they were working with an arcade port, so the arcade doesn't really set the world on fire with its backgrounds either.
These games did not have that.
I want to keep going with positive. I like the fact that you're building this gun. It's not just like you're picking up a smart bomb. You're assembling something that makes sense. I actually didn't mind the HUD in this one. Amiga games, as Dreamcatcher has noted in his wonderful article, are sometimes famous. They were able to keep the speed more accurate to the arcade by making the field of action smaller and then populating the rest of the screen with sometimes blank space, but sometimes they fill it with useful information. And at least with this one, everything that's down there is useful. There's not anything that's useless. And some of the things are kind of clever, like the level timer is displayed as your watch. The golden gun is in a gun case. You've got the map, the gun you're currently shooting is in a gun case. The status of the golden gun assembly is shown on a laptop screen. And of course, you've got your health and your ammo bar. So I don't have a problem with the HUD. It didn't detract from the experience for me. What did detract from the experience is the amount of cheap shots that you take all the time in this game. There are so many unavoidable encounters.
Like that miss on the back of the zip line.
Right. I mean, it's ridiculous. And this game was designed to be a quarter sucker. So, I mean, it was programmed with that in mind. It's just a shame that when they were doing the Amiga port, they didn't do anything to sort of mitigate that.
I agree with what you said to the most part. I don't like the HUD. It's because it's. I mean, how many times have we've called back to that Dreamcatcher article over and over because it was so dead on about these unnecessary HUDs. The arcade version doesn't have this HUD. You've got the exact same information. Don't need the HUD. Now, if the HUD was there to, if you couldn't have had this game play as well as it does without the HUD, I can tolerate. I'm going to go on that assumption, but the HUD adds nothing. It's just there, and it's almost as big as the play field.
It is.
You know, that said, music, great.
Oh, I forgot about the music. You're right. The music is fantastic.
The graphics are really good considering what you're. I mean, these are. It's pretty close to the arcade. You know, they kept all the content in for the most part. It's still fun. It feels like the arcade game. The arcade game is. I mean, Sly doesn't exactly. He's not sprinting around the screen. Mm-hmm. He's sort of, I mean, Bond is not what you would call a speed guy. He's more of a slow-moving guy. Yeah. He's sort of slow, and that's what this guy is. When you're underwater, you feel even slower. Mm-hmm. You know, it's a dopey game that it's fun. That's one thing I like about both these games. They're, you know, in the arcade, they're just fun. Sort of silly games that you play. I love the callbacks to all the Bond stuff. I honestly don't know. I guess they just want to pay the money, but you could have stuck a Bond license on this, changed the flag in the opening scene, and you could have called this James Bond Arcade, and it would have. That's probably what they should have done when they released it at home. They should have just relabeled it. You know.
Well, it's funny because the only reason why I think they didn't do that was maybe just the estate of Ian Fleming or whoever, didn't want to have any video games based on this property because there are no James Bond games, right?
There's tons of them. Are you nuts?
Really?
Yes.
Well, I mean,
there's tons and tons of them.
There was some game on the N64 that I believe made a little bit of a splash.
Yes. I knew. Thank God you were being sarcastic. I about had a heart attack.
But I mean, from at this time, what was the first game listed on your? Do you have a list of?
I don't have a list of Bond games
because
but I
can't remember any from the.
The Amiga has more than this. There's a licensed games on here. And they've been. I mean, the Xbox had them.
But yeah, I'm talking about 8 and 16.
Oh yeah, they had the driving games that were based on. I'm trying to think of exactly what movie it was.
Because again, Spy Hunter, like it's kind of a James Bond thing.
It is. It's funny that game could be a driving segment in this game. Just put them together. But no, there are tons of James Bond games that are, and they're not that good. That's the thing. They're just generic. I'm trying to think of. I think it was a Spy Who Loved Me, For Your Eyes Only, or one of those. There's at least a couple that they turned into games, and I played them, and I was just like, that's how memorable they are. I don't remember what they are, but I remember this. This takes all the fun parts of being James Bond and lets you do them. The only thing this doesn't have is, it's got a motorcycle drive, but you don't get to drive like the Aston Martin or something like that. That would have been kind of cool, but at least they did put something in there for driving. It doesn't have a skiing level. That would have been kind of cool, but still, it's a pretty big game.
Right.
You could run through the whole game. I was telling Bo in about 20 minutes, and that's not bad. It's hard. The Amiga version is. I would put the difficulty on par with the arcade. It's pretty tough. It's got, of course, you've got up for jump. The same old story. But in this game, it works. In fact, I think to some degree, it actually. I'm not going to say it makes it better, but I had no control problems on this one. But like I said, I liked everything about it, with the exception of the HUD. I think it's a real solid port, great music. And I remember I was telling Bode earlier, when I first got this game on the Amiga, I couldn't believe it, how close it was to the arcade. And it seemed like it came out, it came out pretty quick, and it was so close, So I'll give them all the credit in the world. Now, of course, we ran down the developer here, so it's not like they got some schleppy developer to do it. I mean, these guys were pretty competent. They've done a lot of good ports in the past, and they did a good job here. So overall, I dig it. I really like it. So there you go.
All right.
What do you think?
Yeah,
The high sign on this one?
yeah, I like it. It's a very competent port of a Data East, beat 'em up arcade game.
I will say this, and this is one thing. The golden gun adds very little. I will say because it doesn't last very long. When you get the golden gun, it gives you these big kind of weird looking shots like ovals. But I mean, you can still get killed. It's not like you're invincible. I think back to a game. Do you remember a game called Heavy Barrel? That's another game where you spent the whole game assembling this weapon. Brother, when you got the Heavy Barrel, you were doing some damage. That made a big deal. And getting the golden gun, I mean, it's better than your regular gun, but it's not like the best thing you ever saw. I mean, that's for sure. So I will say that was something I didn't think was that big a deal. I did a little eBay look on this, and it's funny. The stuff I saw were boxed. You can get this game. I only saw this game came out in a compilation from the Hit Squad, $20 to get that compilation. You could get the discs for $23, but I didn't see any actual boxed versions of just this game that had been around. So if you've got one, it may be kind of hard to find. So there you go. All right. So that was our look at Sly Spy, and then we ran into some difficulty here, technical difficulties, folks, with some level stuff and some there were some alignments unaligned and some paradigms shifted. And so what we're going to do, and since we were running along, we're going to make this a two-part episode. So you just watched our Sly Spy section of our Data East Tribute, and next week we are going to have a look at Bad Dudes and have a good in-depth look at that. In fact, we might even stick in another Data East if we don't have enough content to fill. And next week, we're going to put up an additional Amigos Plays of Bad Dudes. This time it will be properly emulated. Yes. We had some technical issues tonight. All the way around with Bad Dudes, any way you look at it. We were talking about cunning ways to phrase this, but truth be told, we did the whole episode and then realized that everything from Bad Dudes forward didn't work right. Yeah. So. And we want to thank Hasifa on the chat there to inform us it's better. I'm really glad that he was here hanging out with us to let us know, because if he wasn't there, then I would have put this up and it would have been real bad. So thank you, Hasifa, and I'd like to thank our Patreon supporters, and I'm going to do this in the best Sammy Kershaw tradition. Christopher Hassel, Ravi, Abbott, Chris Folds, Dreamcatcher, Lawrence O'Rue, Graham W. Vebkebi, Brandon Dowdy, Lane Dinson, Adam Battersby, O'Brien's Retro and Vintage, Gary Huckasey, Brian Jones, Paul Harrington, Duncan Stiles, Alan Kebab, Anthony Jarvis, Tapes from the Crib, Josh Nan, Will Williams, Adam Bradley, Neil Mansell, Jonas Rouleau, THT, Eric Nelson, Kim, Tommy Humberstad, Daniel Bingston, Brutal Barracuda, Derek Coles, Jason Warren's Pixels of Dawn, Kjolbjorn Barman. You phoned that last part in there. Who was this a tribute to? That was Sammy Kershaw. I don't know who that is. Made her the queen of my double wide trailer with the polyester curtains. So no one knows who that guy is. Everybody knows. He is world famous. Can you name anything else he did aside from that trailer song? He's a one-hit wonder. Well, so he did nothing else. That doesn't mean that he's not world famous. If anyone else has ever heard of this guy, let me know. Because I live near Double Wides and I have no idea who he is. Oh, he's great. Good grief! And you really phoned in the end of that. Well, I ran out of music, so I had to. There was music. That's what I do. Turn it up, bud. I can't hear it. So next week, guys, we are going to be playing Bad Dudes. We will see you then. Until next week, adios.